I'm willing to bet that there's one thing out there that you think will kill your creativity. But what if that thing is actually the key to unlocking more of it?
If you're wasting your energy and creativity on deciding, man, how should I send an invoice? If you're just making these kinds of impromptu decisions that are draining and draining and draining your energy throughout the day, as a creative, you're actually giving away the inventory that is making you money in your business.
In this episode, Layla Pomper from ProcessDriven reveals why creators are actually some of the biggest beneficiaries of that systematization and how to build processes without killing your creative flow.
About 80% of what you do is repeating, recurring.
So whether you're a solo podcaster drowning in admin tasks or you're a YouTube channel ready to build your first team, this conversation will change how you think about your systems forever. Let's jump in. So most podcasters think, I'm creative, I don't really need process. What would you say to that?
I think creatives are the greatest beneficiaries of process, because if you're a creative, that means your willpower, your energy for the day, your special sauce is the business. And so if you're wasting your energy and creativity on deciding, man, how should I send an invoice? Which file should I use in order to clean up the audio? If you're just making these kinds of impromptu decisions that are draining and draining and draining your energy throughout the day, as a creative, you're actually giving away the inventory that is making you money in your business. Frankly, the accountant down the street, if your accountant is wasting all their creativity on redeciding those same things, you're probably not going to notice. But if your favorite podcast host is wasting all of their energy away on those little micro choices, you're going to notice that in how they show up and deliver their work.
I love that. Yeah, I often talk about the fact that constraints actually bring freedom. So the less decisions you make, if you bring in frameworks and templates for your work, it often takes away decisions, which actually helps you be more creative. So I guess this is a lot around that, isn't it? Those frameworks, those templates, they free up that decision fatigue to actually give you more time to be creative.
Yeah, but people don't feel that. They fear this sense that what I'm going to get is a high school assignment of you have to write a 5-paragraph essay in this perfect way. That's what a lot of people think of when they think of process. But the way you're talking about it is exactly where we want to get to. We want to think of process like how you stretch the canvas before you paint. That's not necessarily a creative component. It's just prep.
Yeah, totally. I'm sure you work with a whole range of different businesses. Do you work with a lot of creatives in your work?
It's surprising the number of folks that come through. I mean, podcast agencies are definitely on the more systemized side of the creative space, but creators, authors, I think creatives are often the people who appreciate systems the most once they find the ones that work for them, because creatives, we are very sensitive to how we spend our energy. Whereas people who are extremely systemized, they're often building these systems already. So for folks who come to me and are like, I really want to get my business organized, folks craving that are those that need that in their life. So I very rarely work with, process experts. No. It's creatives, it's normal folks, it's small business owners like us.
Yeah, the ones that almost have accidentally grown into needing a process. I find that. Do you find that a lot as well?
Probably the biggest demographic. I think it's a great symptom when you're like, wow, my content is blowing up. All of a sudden I have sponsors to manage and episodes to get out. Oh, wait, how do I keep track of all that? We don't learn that in school.
Yeah, it wasn't something you were taught. What's the biggest process mistakes you see people, creators particularly, making? Podcasters, if you worked with them, but even just larger creatives, like whether it's blogging, YouTube, whatever it is. What do you help them with? What's often the first thing you can help them with?
For a general small business professional, I would go one way, but for creatives specifically, I think it's this tendency that I'm certainly not guilty of myself, to forget about the normal things you already have to do. So if I was talking to a creative and we were working together, I would, assess where they're at today, but 9 times out of 10, I would have them start their system building journey by recording the non-negotiable things they already have on their plate. These usually take the form of recurring tasks in some form. Things like I need to record every Monday. I need to edit every Tuesday. I need to talk to a sponsor every Thursday and send them the weekly update about analytics. There are so many things we just do that creatives often memorize and remember to do. And that's a huge mental load that we're carrying throughout the week, throughout the weekend, and even when we're on vacation. So I think the number one starting point for creatives would be writing down those recurring, ongoing commitments that exist just to run a small business. And even if, you're just starting the podcast on the side as a side hustle, that is a business.
Yeah. There's so many though, isn't there? I wonder where do we start with these? Like, what, do you have a couple of examples? Like, what do you, so your core content is YouTube, isn't it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I presume you have a whole bunch of systems and process around that. Can you talk us through a couple of them? Because they totally parallel with podcasting, really.
Yeah, I think a helpful detail for those of us who are nerds in this audience is to think about there's two types of recurring things that happen. There's reoccurring, meaning there's something you do and you do it again and again and again, but each time it's a unique thing. So for me, that's a YouTube episode. For many of us here, it's a podcast episode. That is a new creation that you're churning through on your assembly line of your business. And then in the background, there's these straight up repeating things, which means it's the same thing you do every week or every month or every quarter. For me on the YouTube side, which is very similar to podcasting, some of my repeating activities are every single week on Tuesday, I have the whole day blocked off for creating content. I mean, that is the simplest starting point. Every month, I have a repeating task that prompts me to plan the next 4 weeks of content. Usually I try to do more than that, but just getting those ideas out there is really helpful. I have a weekly task that has me check in, well, my team in my case, check in on the YouTube pipeline. How far ahead are we? How far behind are we? We always try to be 4 episodes ahead. These are all little repeating, I don't want to say chores, but they're the infrastructure that makes sure if I need to go on vacation or I just want to be in a space where I'm not creating for a few weeks, I have the flexibility to do that. And that's all on the repeating side. On the reoccurring side, meaning those assembly lines we have, templates are my best friend, even when it was just me producing videos, especially to now, having a solid template for here are the steps we need to go through in our assembly line is huge.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think through. So like with podcasting in particular, you're right. There's a kind of weekly routine of the idea generation, so the episode generation every single week. Sometimes that might be actually, like you say, it's reoccurring, but it's unique. But sometimes actually you have a season worth of stuff where it actually still follows on from the previous one too. So maybe your template would lead on from the previous episode as well. But then you've got editing, you've got the marketing, the promotion. Do you see any of those as kind of any of those being the most valuable to start getting the process around it? Like where do you think people would jump in if they were to start with one thing?
I'll share what I found helpful, and everyone will find their different standards. But for me, what is most helpful is focusing on what comes after I put my most energy out. That was barely a coherent sentence. But for me, it's post-production. So as soon as I record something, there's that rough edit, then it goes into polished edit and so on. For me, because I'm just more tired of the piece of content at that point, that is where I noticed issues would come up. I would miss things. For me, that was the first place where I started really building checklists. And that's what it came to form as. It was something as simple as, Layla, when you're editing your own videos, because back in the day, you have to figure everything out. Here are the things you need to make sure. Make sure the audio is coming out both ears. Make sure, and I'm sure you guys have great resources on all of that. But having that checklist for when you are feeling the most lazy is my go-to spot, because that's really what Process is there for. It's to help you out when you need the extra boost.
Yeah. I suppose particularly the parts that we find a little bit more, well, I won't go as far as saying boring, but the parts we're less attracted to.
I love editing.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I think that's where we would often start as well. It's a place where we do have a ton of templates actually, because it's a place where you can quite easily get lost. There's so many different processes. I mean, we're lucky these days with podcasting particularly, but I'm sure with YouTube, any other content creation process, where a lot of it's become easier, hasn't it? There's too many tools out there now which actually automate a lot of this, but still, you need to know kind of what tools to use in what order, which features to use within each one. So I presume, just like, I mean, is it as simple as thinking through it? I mean, would you recommend starting? So we've got a weekly podcasting process and actually just picking one part of it and saying, right, here we go. I'm just going to go through my normal process, but I'm going to take the extra time to just actually log this in one place or another. Would you say as well, like just starting with one small part, or is it worth trying to just do the whole thing at once?
You know, it's a tricky question that really comes down to how someone's brain is wired. But where I like to go is go surface level, meaning very high level, just what are you doing across everything. So in this case, for your podcast process, what are all the major steps an episode goes through? Write them all down. And I don't care if it's on a sticky note or if it's on a digital tool, just episode number 1, what are the things that happen? For most podcasts or, creative productions, it's going to be anywhere between 5 and 10 things. Usually 5 for most of us who are DIYing. That's not that wild to just write down 5 phrases. Then use it. That is like the biggest thing. Before you start doing anything else, any fancy zaps or automations or starting to integrate it with Riverside, no. Just write down those steps. Then when you are working on your next episode, use that template you've created. So again, it could be the sticky note. Just make a copy of the sticky note, check the boxes as you go. And when you realize, oh my gosh, I'm on pre-production and I forgot to turn the lights on. I just filmed that whole video without the light on in the background. That's when you go back through and add more detail. You remind yourself, hey, here's your pre-production checklist. Here's your post-production checklist. Here's your publishing checklist. And I really like to focus on that flow of create it, use it, notice what goes wrong, and then build more to fix what just went wrong. Because otherwise we can get in this kind of procrastination cycle where we're trying to make this beautiful workflow or beautiful system that is overkill for what we actually need.
I love that. Yeah. Keep it simple at first. At least help with some of the steps that you forget and then try to build it out. Yeah. It's a similar approach to we always talk about actually just making a podcast or making content in general, isn't it? You never start perfect. So why would you start that way with your checklists, I guess? Exactly. And I think a lot of folks, if you get too excited about it, they're going to start systemizing everything. They'll start creating a word by word script for how to run their interviews and and that just doesn't work. And then you give up on the whole thing because it's overkill. Yeah, totally. Let me come back to that because that was something I wanted to ask about. But worth saying as an example out there, one of my checklists, actually, I just renewed this just recently because I've changed my office around a little bit. And I literally just I'll ask you about the tech as well, but my tech currently for this one was a yellow Post-it note stuck to the corner of my monitor, which had 3 things on it, one of which was close my window. And another one was make sure that you mentioned the light as well. So there was a couple of things on there, but the window one was simply because of a few failures to launch where it's quite hot in my office, but there's quite noisy stuff outside. And a couple of times I start recording, I haven't closed the window, the noise gets in, and it's just, perfect example of a little flaw that I needed to create a little checklist, a little process to fix.
Mine is Bluetooth on my phone. I always forget. I've got Bluetooth headphones, and then mid-interview you'll hear ring, 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 some spam caller. Those are the ones where they get you.
Yeah. My co-host hates me because I always leave my phone on the table next to me and it just starts vibrating. It's always in silent, but it still vibrates.
Yeah, it's enough.
Yeah, totally. You mentioned, so going back to that balance, so over processing, over systematizing, I think that's a lot of where podcasters in particular, creatives more widely, fall down on this. They think, will this ruin my creativity? Will this make things too, robotic or something? Like, how do you, where do you not introduce process, or where do you draw the line around where it helps versus where it starts to hinder? Have you seen that? Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge challenge when folks are trying their best to be like an honor student. They're like, I want to do this. And then they start overdoing it. My rule of thumb is to start with that very basic level. What is happening? So if we think about this as what, when, who, those are our first 3 layers of building systems. Just focus on what needs to happen. For now, we'll assume the who is yourself. The when is whenever you feel like it. We can handle when in a later date. But for now, just get the what down. And when it comes to adding more detail to that, when we start getting into when am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? Where, in terms of software, am I going to store all this? That's where it can be prone to get overly complicated. I like to let mistakes guide me. So I do not like to introduce process to things that I don't need them for. I mean, as simple as that sounds, if you've never had a mistake about how you pour your coffee in the morning, you probably don't need a procedure to tell you how to pour coffee. Unless the stakes are very high, the risk is very high, or there's been a real mistake in the past, like my phone going off in the middle of interviews. I mean, unless those things have happened, you're just preparing for hypotheticals. You're spending time now that you'll never be able to get back for something that might potentially, but probably won't happen in the future. And while big corporations need to do that because the risks are really high, we as creatives don't.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Led by the risks, led by the mistakes. That's great. Quick aside to talk to you about Alitu. Alitu is our podcast maker app. It's the product we sell, which supports all the free content like this that we put out in the world. It includes call recording, audio cleanup, audio editing, and podcast hosting, all in one simple place. Its primary goal is to make it as easy as possible for you to create your podcast, automating a lot of what you do and helping with the rest. It's just the simplest way to make your podcast and publish it to the world. For example, in Alitu here, you can record by yourself or with a group. It cleans up any audio you upload or record automatically, including noise reduction, leveling, normalization, all that stuff. You can edit super easily, just like this, and you can edit at double speed as well if you choose. And it includes text-based editing, so you can edit just as if you're using a Word document. Music fades are taken care of with just the click of a button, and you can add files to your timeline with just a click as well. And then finally, publish with all your detail in here with the inbuilt hosting, and you can use AI to generate titles and descriptions if you want to. If you want to check it out, go over to alitu.com, that's alitu.com, and you can get a 7-day trial to give it a shot. I think it was interesting you talking earlier on about where those mistakes come in, where the kind of the more boring aspects come in as well, because that's the places where you make those mistakes, but equally the parts that you're more excited about, they tend to be the ones that just flow. They tend to be the more creative parts for us, like the scripting and stuff like that. You don't want to end up with word for word scripts and things like that. So yeah, that seems like a great guide. In terms of the tools then, so what do you actually, what types of, I'm sure there's whole lots of layers of tools you could bring in for this types of things. And I'd like to talk about teams a little bit as well. Like a lot of the people out there listening will be just working away on their own, so they won't have that help. But they might want to get help in future. So let's dig into that too. But say it's just yourself starting out and you want to try with this. What's a good simple way to start in terms of the tooling to actually get this done? Where do you log it?
Well, I can tell you how I started, which was with a flip phone and a spreadsheet. I would not recommend doing that for anybody here. No, where I would start is if you're looking to just get one tool to manage everything, is start with a task management tool. I know it's very basic. It might not feel very sexy. It could be a spreadsheet, but frankly, a tool like, what do we have? Trello, ClickUp, Monday, Notion, anything in that category can really scale well for small teams, meaning it'll work very well when it's just you doing this as a side hustle, and it will work perfectly up to, an 8-figure business. There's no point in which you'll have to switch over. Any of those options would really grow well with you. Once you have that tool though, which almost all of them you can start for free, that's where people start over-engineering. So what I will say is when you get that tool, just create one spot in it. One spot called tasks. That's it. They want to throw you all these templates and fancy gizmos. Don't let them fool you. Create the database in Notion, create the list in ClickUp, whatever the tool, one spot called tasks. And start logging in there these assembly line items, like your episodes. Start logging in there the tasks you have to do, especially focusing on the ones that repeat. I know I'm a broken record on that. I'm repeating about repeating. But the power of those two things is that it is basically you helping yourself today stay sane, but also it's the first step to being able to hire is to have those things recorded, which I can get it into if we want to go into that side of things.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Let's come back to that. The tools, though, you mentioned Notion there. I really like Notion for this. I've recommended it for a lot of people. And our very own Podcraft Academy, we have a Notion dashboard that I've built to help people run their podcast processes in there. So we've got a bit of a starting point in Notion already, but you see, it feels like you can do just about everything in that dashboard. But equally, yeah, I love the kind of basic task managers like Todoist, one I really like as well, because you can set up those repeating tasks and stuff like that as well, which I think is so relevant to us, isn't it, as creators, that this is the thing that I have to do every single week, isn't it? Do you use a lot of them yourself for your YouTube processes, like things that actually do have to happen same day every week?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so much. And, we've actually have some numbers on this because I'm a bit of a nerd. I don't know if you can tell. But we've kind of found across the board that the average small business, even if it's just yourself, about 80% of what you do is repeating, recurring.
Oh, really? That's a lot.
80%, yeah.
Yeah.
The other 20% is split between these one-off projects that might be shiny objects and fixing emergencies that come up. But the vast majority of our time is just spent on things that we know are coming. We can anticipate them. And hell, we can even schedule and delegate them. But yes, it's a huge part of our process for everything. And I think even as someone who's kind of creative, I tend to kind of work in bursts. Having the structure, even if I choose to ignore it sometimes, allows me to consistently be ahead. So that way, when I'm like a week like this, I just didn't feel like filming Tuesday. It happened. The idea of sitting down and filming the video I had to do just drained me. It wasn't going to happen that day. And if I was tight on time, I'd have to just buckle down and get it filmed. Yeah, but because we're 3 weeks out, I have that flexibility of saying, you know what, since I've built this system to support me, I'm just going to chill in my system hammock for a little bit, and I'll come back next week and we'll still be fine.
Yeah, that's excellent. Okay, so people should just pick a simple tool. Maybe they're already using Notion. Maybe they're using something like Todoist for their own, their general work tasks at the moment, and just create that folder, like you say, called tasks, that page called tasks, and start logging one thing at a time, led by mistakes. I really like that approach, actually, led by the things that you know you've done wrong in the past. That's really cool. In terms of going beyond that then, like I said, we definitely have a lot of DIYers, a lot of people doing the podcast by themselves right now. But we also have a fair chunk of people who are starting to work with a team or already have a team established or would like to plan towards outsourcing in future. Like, what do you have to think about in terms of planning towards delegating? Are there any particular tips or tricks or anything you think about when you plan towards that?
The first time I delegated, I'll go back to that embarrassing story. I did the thing that I now see clients do all the time, which is, man, I'm not on social media, but I'm posting on these other places. I should hire somebody to help me with social media because I'm sure that would help grow my business. And you're laughing because you know where this is going.
This is where we all go, don't worry.
we had to check the box along the way.
Yeah.
And so I hired this sweet woman who, bless her heart, she helped with social media, but it turns out social media absolutely did nothing for my business as someone who's now fully off most social media. And I think that's a common mistake. When we're looking to delegate, the question that usually comes up is, well, what would I even delegate? I don't even know who could help me or how they could help me. We're blind. And so we do what young Layla did, which was just go for whatever's shiniest, go for a guess of what we think might work, where we're basically guessing and betting on somebody else. We're gambling with our time and money. And instead of that, when we start tracking our tasks, we now all of a sudden have proof of exactly what we do to run our business. We have proof of where our time is going. And so when it's getting started to delegating, I like to use that task list as your roles and responsibilities. If you go to hire a video editor or a podcast editor, the first thing they're going to ask you is, how many episodes? How long is the raw file? How long is this going to take if you're working with someone who's an hourly worker on Upwork or so on? And a lot of the time, if you were like I was, you can't answer that question. And guess what? They can't give you a proposal if you can't give them a scope, if you can't describe what you need. When you start tracking tasks, even if it's just a history of your own activity, all of a sudden you can see it right there. Hey, on average, we post 4 blogs a month. It takes me 90 minutes. My hourly rate is, let's say, $100 an hour. So I have a budget of up to this amount in order to hire somebody to write my blogs. We can all of a sudden start just making it math when we start tracking it, which does not work when you're just memorizing and hoping and praying.
Yeah. Do you keep that as simple as anything? Just literally a spreadsheet or a document, just like literally start writing down things task by task?
But one of the beautiful things, we talked about Notion here. If you're using a tool like Notion or Todoist or any of the others, you can find that history right in there. And that's what I love about them is you can be so lazy. Show me all closed tasks in the last 30 days.
Yeah.
Bam. There we go.
There's your list. Yeah, absolutely. One thing I've done, I'm sure you've seen this as well, is starting to record tasks you're doing as well. Have you worked with people to kind of use that as ways to start setting up that delegation?
Yeah, I think videos can really work. Sometimes I talk people out of this, though, unless they love video.
Yeah. Yeah.
The reason I talk people out of it if they are already delegating is because as someone who creates a lot of video for my work, the idea of refilming a video makes me die a little inside. So
yeah.
you're like, yep, I've been there. So I'm pro video if it's something that's kind of fixed in time. This is how we always do this. But for those of us who are lazy, even though it takes a little bit longer, I like to take a video and turn it into a transcript, use AI for this if you need to. But just to put it in an easier to edit format long term, if you're going to start building process, just because we're lazy, you're going to make the SOP once or the guideline or the checklist once, but you're going to edit it, hopefully, hundreds of times. Let's make it easier for the hundreds.
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely. Yeah, because things change all the time, don't they? There's always something new you add to a process. And yeah, similarly, the thing that always makes me die a little inside is having to record new customer support videos, all those kind of things where we demonstrate features, because we just change a little thing, we tweak a little thing, and then you have to re-record it. That's every single time. Yep. It's always worthwhile, of course, but still.
I know. We just changed our tutorial stuff to GIFs for that exact reason, because I'm like, if I have to film another, here's so where to click video. Same thing for your process though, guys. Like, just plan on being lazy in the future. For however you feel Monday morning, come Friday afternoon, you are a different person. Even if you're a team of 1, you are a team of 2.
Yeah. What do you see with the people you work with? Obviously, it's quite a common thing, I presume, starting to delegate tasks. I mean, is that a common time that people reach out to you to work with you, is when they're starting to build that team and now, therefore it needs more process? Or does it happen earlier than that too?
I wish it would happen earlier than that. We do have a fair amount of folks who come to us who have just started hiring their first assistant, or they're just trying to get things out of their head. Unfortunately, the reality is a lot of times process is people's last diagnosis. So, they're struggling with things not getting done. First, they blame the people. They say, I just can't hire the right editor. I can't find the right assistant. Then they blame their self. Oh, I'm a terrible leader. I should have taken a management course. Then they blame their software. They switch between Notion and SmartSuite.
It's always the software's fault.
It's always the software. Then they blame the lack of AI. No, just kidding about that one, thankfully. But usually it's after they've exhausted everything else that they realize, it's fundamentally how I show up for work. The fact that I don't write things down. The fact that it is all in my head. And even the best assistant and the best tool and the best podcast production process, I'm still going to feel stressed out because come Friday evening, I'm still thinking about everything. And I know if I forget anything that I'm thinking about, things will fall apart. That's the problem. So unfortunately, it's usually after they've grown.
It's kind of try to fix the problem. I suppose people generally only try to fix something when they already feel the pain, don't they? Rarely do we have the time to prepare ahead.
And the awareness just isn't there yet, but we're trying to fix that.
Yes, indeed. How long do you think, or how long does it usually take to see the benefits of this, do you find? Is it pretty immediate, or do you have to kind of take a few weeks to start creating them, a few months for it really to bed in?
So I think the task management piece is usually where I have people start. And I would say the first 2 weeks of someone doing that, of writing down what they do as they do it, Usually for the first week, I'll get messages like, this is so silly. This takes me longer than just doing the task. Oh gosh, this is so annoying. But when we remember that 80% of what we do is repeating, the amount you have to write becomes less and less each week because you've created it once, it repeats. So over time, I would say usually around the 4-week mark is when people are like, oh my gosh, I do a lot of stuff. No wonder I'm tired. That's when the empathy and the self-understanding and the, we transition from this shame of I have overdue things to, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got all of this stuff done. And it's usually about 4 weeks of building this habit where people start feeling it. If you have a team, it goes a little bit slower. I usually say 2 months for people to get used to a new format. But if you're picking the right systems, you can feel the benefit pretty much immediately. You and I made the reference about closing windows and turning phone off Bluetooth. You feel that as soon as you do your next film session.
It's an immediate solution. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Good stuff. That's cool. Yeah. So like within a sort of month or so, if you're working by yourself, potentially a couple of months with a team. Yeah. It's good, quick payoff.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else in general you think we've missed in terms of process? Anything you want to cover in terms of how to set it up, or any common mistakes people make before we kind of move on from that?
I think one detail, if we're going to talk about how to get started. I just was on LinkedIn this morning. You and I met at Atomicon. Shout out to Atomicon. And at Atomicon, I gave a talk. And one of the things that I included in there was to create tasks to be 20 minutes or so, equal to 1 work sitting. And I just saw someone had posted this morning about how they've been practicing that ever since Atomicon. So it's been about 2 weeks now. We're in that interval. And she was posting about how she went from feeling really overwhelmed that, oh my gosh, how did I not get this thing done? I only had 1 thing to do today. What's wrong with me? And then she transitioned to, oh my gosh, I actually had 40 things to do today when I broke them out into appropriately sized tasks.
Yeah.
And I want to share that here with folks in case that's a helpful tip to start with.
Yeah. I'm actually talking of like using AI to help as a sort of thinking partner. I use it more for that these days too. Like say, here's a task I want to get done. Please break this into all the constituent parts. And it's so surprising sometimes when you actually see it spit out, I never even thought that's another part that's involved and that's a part that's involved. And yeah, it really brings it home really. I'm taking on a week task here rather than just a day.
Exactly. And the AI is objective in that way. And as long as you teach it, hey, I want a task to be equal to 20 minutes or less, have each title be a verb and a noun. Sometimes AI can get a little corporate-y. But if we train it properly, creating project plans is a great use case. Great
stuff. Cool. All right. I wouldn't be doing my job right, though, if I didn't, before we finish up, ask you one question. Well, maybe a couple of questions here around. You're obviously running a really good, like an amazingly successful YouTube channel just now as well. Now, tell me, what's the title of it again so that people can find it in case they want to go and look you up?
So it's under my name, Layla Pomper. The actual title of the channel is Layla at ProcessDriven.
Layla at ProcessDriven. Perfect. What's working? Like a lot of our podcasters obviously are expanding into YouTube just now. A lot of there's a good bit of growth going on in podcasting in the YouTube space just now. What do you see working on YouTube right now? Like what's working for you at the moment in terms of getting your videos out there, discoverability, growing that audience there?
Well, before you said what's working for me, I was going to say, podcasting on YouTube, but I'm not doing that yet. So on the wish list. What is working though? I think the same thing is working now as what worked when I started. So I don't know if you could see it. For folks who are listening, you couldn't see it, but I kind of like leaned back a little bit when Colin said, oh, you've got a successful YouTube channel, because that's still a foreign concept to me. I suppose that is true. If we look at it now, we're at about 120,000 subscribers. But when I started, it all started with a flip phone and literally just recording videos for questions my clients were asking me. And as we've grown and as I've learned a little bit about how to properly YouTube, I'm still not great at it, that has just come back full circle. So I started off with clients asking questions. I film a video to respond to it. Now I'm going back to that exact same thing. So what I think has worked and will always work is pain-based content that speaks to a specific challenge that people are facing in words that they use to face it. And then that is the body of your YouTube content, much like a podcast episode. But the packaging of that, meaning the title and the thumbnail, exclusively focuses on the pain. So the exact quote of I'm feeling so overwhelmed, the exact quote of I'm constantly having overdue tasks, the things that you hear your ideal listener say as the title. And then the body is you answering that question. That is how the whole channel has grown without really knowing what the heck I'm doing, and I'm going to keep doing it.
Well, looks like you know quite a lot about what you're doing, given the numbers. But yeah, I understand that feeling. It doesn't matter how long you do something, doesn't it? That's really good to hear, though. That's like, because I mean, that's just great content in a nutshell, isn't it? Know your audience, know who you're speaking to, know the pains and the struggles and the problems that they have, and really translate that into their language and then answer it, essentially. And it's funny, I always find people struggle with episode titles, particularly with podcasting. I guess it translates to YouTube episodes in a way, but making them either too complicated or trying to be fancy with them, when really it is just, as you just said there, are you overwhelmed? And then that is what makes them click, because they're like, yes I am.
And I should say, tools like creator hooks, I know we talked about tools here, tools like that are very helpful too, to get in that YouTubey mindset. I don't think until I started using that kind of framework did I realize, oh my gosh, it's really not that complicated. But you know, just like systems, it's easy to overdo it until you realize, oh, it's just what people say.
Yeah, interesting. Creator hooks, is that a
Creator
tool
hooks
of some sort? Yeah.
Cool. It's a great little tool that pulls in kind of trending YouTube videos and helps you figure out, oh, here's the titles, here's the thumbnails that videos in your niche are using, and it helps you kind of generate ideas. It's a cool little one to check out if anyone is getting into the YouTube game. Perfect. And the founder's great too.
Yeah, great stuff. Okay, thanks, Layla. So you've got a tool to help people out there to improve their own processes, or to figure out whether they need some, how to start creating it, called the system. I knew I was going to mess this up. The systematization snapshot.
This was an ultimate test, Colin, of your skills as a podcaster. I gave you the hardest name in the book.
Failed badly. To call myself a professional talker. Never mind. Anyway, Layla, tell me more about the systematization snapshot, because it does sound really cool. So yeah, how can people use this?
Well, I'm going to call it the snapshot, because that does sound like hard to say. Now I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to follow that up. So yeah, the challenge with process is we never know if we're doing it right. We don't know if we're doing enough. It can be this kind of never-ending thing, kind of like getting in shape. And you just want to know, wait, am I healthy in operation sense? So the snapshot asks you some questions of, hey, do you have a task list? Hey, do you use assignees? Different yes and no questions, and fill in the blanks that help you assess how systemized is your team. And that gives you a score, and it tells you, hey, here are some areas you might want to improve. It's totally free, and it's over on our website.
Perfect. Great stuff. I'll stick the link for that in the show notes. So if you want to go and check that out, the systematization snapshot. There we go. Got it that time. The link will be in your description. So just pop that into your, or open up that in your app, click that, and you'll nip over and you can sign up for that with Layla. All right. Thanks very much, Layla. That was really good. I think there's some great inspiration, some great starting points in there to go and start creating more process, even just starting with something simple. Just pick out that one mistake that you've made the last time you recorded, the last time you edited, the last thing you missed, and begin there. So thanks very much, Layla.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. All right. And thank you out there for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Hey, if you're enjoying this content, please do hit that like and subscribe below so that you get informed whenever we put out new stuff. It'll be all about content creation, audio production, podcasting, hopefully help you with the next thing that you're making.